Hey George, thank you for joining the call. How are you?
Thank you for having me. I'm good. How are you?
All good, all good. So, a very basic question. I mean, I know for a matter of fact there is a lot of awareness campaign going around mental health and so on and so forth. But society at a large is still considered as a very taboo. अगर मैं एज अ साइकोलॉजिस्ट के पास जा रहा हूँ या फिर साइकेट्रिस्ट कह रही हो तो पागल ये सबसे पहला भाई ये है क्यों why there is a taboo why it
Okay.
cannot be generalized and why there is such a huge deal about consulting someone with respect to the mental health.
So we'll have to go to a bit of a basic in this understanding because it's the reason why it's also stigma in the society is because unlike other things, it's not it's not that पैर टूट गया है. It's not like my hand is broken. It's not like my stomach is having issues or have stomach cancer or something like that. Whenever
दिखता नहीं है
someone
मतलब
दिखता भी नहीं है एंड यू कांट लोकलाइज इट एकदम स्पेसिफिकली कि इस जगह पे कुछ चीज हो रहा है. द थिंग विद मेंटल हेल्थ issues is that it's self issues. The entire personality of the person comes under view. It's not just a body part, it's not just the brain. Even if it is the brain, it's not just that. It is the entire way the person feels, thinks, relates with other people, talks to other people, functions in society, functions at work. That is one of the major reasons why this is stigma and not other things. Because in some or the other way, the entire individual is looked at as a whole. It's not like, oh, look at that person, uska pair toota hua. It's not that way. It's like, look at that person is mad or crazy. So that entire person's identity basically comes into spotlight. That is the core reason why, one of the obviously there are many other reasons, but one of the core reasons why this is a sensitive topic and this is a stigma still. In terms of also mental health awareness, I beg to disagree a little bit there because mental health awareness has been there since they have recorded history. It has been there. We have known that there are people who have very severe mental health conditions. We have known people who go through problems in everyday living, stress and relationships and all of that. So we have known this for a very long time. There's no awareness as such, lacking in awareness as such. The thing is that it's not the way we want it to be in the modern times. That's what is the major goal. The mental health awareness is not how we would like it to be. So for example, let's take for example common cold. Common cold is a good example. We've known since a long time common sardi khasi hoti hai, common cold hota hai, right? There's no need to be aware about that. We have known that in that aspect. But now we know, based on our modern findings, that common cold is generally caused by viruses. So we know that this is the reason why people are having common cold. इतने टाइम से common cold का बोलता था कि कोई fruit खा लिया होगा कोई सा, या फिर कोई ठंडा पानी पी लिया होगा, या फिर आइसक्रीम खा ली होगी, या फिर all those food related, या फिर there's some kind of a evil eye that is there. All of those reasons were there. Right now we know that common colds are caused by viruses. A good example is COVID. Very similar symptoms of common cold like symptoms, but we know that it's caused by coronavirus. That is the level of awareness, mental health awareness, that the World Health Organization is also trying to target. We come to know that mental health conditions are real conditions with causes, and that there are treatments for that, and there are professionals for those kinds of treatments. That is where that awareness bit of it is lacking. I hope that difference is I'm able to explain that
no, I
clearly.
understand, but the reason why I was saying that awareness and the promotion has gone up because maybe one of the factor could be the social media and having an access. As I said it earlier, we are living in a very highly exposed world. So कुछ भी चीजें होती तुरंत ही वायरल हो जाता है. दीपिका पादुकोण को कुछ हुआ सबको पता चल गया भाई mental health कुछ होता है. So it's like maybe because of the celebrity driven, maybe because the context of promotion was coming from that angle. But at the same time, social media also plays a very huge role in our daily life, right? whether we agree it or not, हम जो देखते हैं, हम जो सुनते हैं, we all aspire to do or something like to be in the same line. How do you think that it actually affects our mental health? I mean, अगर मेरे बारे में पूछोगे तो जैसे कई बार होता है मुझे नींद नहीं आती रहती तो मैं भी स्क्रॉलिंग करते रहता हूँ इंस्टाग्राम पे, यूट्यूब पे, एंड देन आई डोंट गेट द स्लीप ऑल टुगेदर. सो मुझे जो सोना होता था 11 बजे बिकॉज नींद नहीं आ रही, तो अब वो जो सोना होता था 11 बजे वो सडनली हो जाता है 3 बजे स्क्रॉल करते करते बिकॉज ऑफ द ब्लू लाइट एंड सो. बट इन जनरल विद रिस्पेक्ट टू यंग एंड द बोथ चाइल्ड, हाउ डू यू थिंक, हाउ डज इट एक्चुअली इम्पैक्ट?
So it is an interesting question because in some or the other way we are uh, surrounded by social media in whatever form, and the thing is our brains, uh, obviously we have the biggest brain compared to body size in all of the creatures that way, but still they are very small, and in that small brain also most of the connections that are there are social communication or connection related connections in the brain. So it's only logical that sometime in the evolution human beings would invent something like social media. It's very inevitable because so many of our brain wires are wired for connection, to socialize, to have social relationships. It's inevitable in some or the other form. Take newspaper for example, how we had newspapers to spread news across people. Nobody needs to know what's happening in Pakistan, but we still had newspapers that were there. Nobody needs to know what's happening in London, but we had newspapers. So by nature of our biology, it's inevitable for us to develop something like this. The issue here is that our the part of our mind which reasons and plans has gone way beyond the part of our mind which is very simple, very easily sensitive, gets affected very easily by people's opinions, by what other people are wearing or doing. So it's that there's a part of our brain which is very sensitive to all of those things. But then there's this other part of the brain which has gone way leaps and bounds ahead. It has created Instagram and it has created reel system now, and it has created shorts on YouTube. It has created all of these. It has basically over expanded itself in a way, and that's where the problem also starts. But it's not all problem. Like I also mentioned, our brains are wired for connection. So in a way, it's helpful. In some deeper sense, it is helpful to have social media. It connects us with people. It helps us. All the benefits basically, which initially were proposed when Facebook was coming out or Orkut was there, in that sense. But so this is also where involvement comes in. How much of it can be regulated is, and this regulation also then comes by family members or as a society in general. How much can we regulate this? Because when you're talking about children, when you're talking about teenagers, they're at that stage in life where they are forming some sense of stability in their identity. Unka jo identity hai, the way they look at themselves, is basically becoming more and more solid day by day, day by day. It's that developmental phase in human life. So, उस time पे if there is not much regulation, I don't even know for that matter what regulation would look like, because then it would probably mean restriction in some way, but we don't encourage restriction in any form of social media. But some or the other kind of regulation or some kind of probably awareness or education in terms of how to adequately use social media, probably that may help in terms of children being or teenagers being more mindful of what they're doing. But Kamlesh, to be honest, this is an area of human development that has gone beyond individuals. It has become a phenomenon on its own, and there is no one clear-cut way to put brakes on anything, for that matter. Because putting brakes means giving up all the good things in what that comes with social media. So I think at the moment the conversation is a bit on the grey side of things, that it's good, it's bad. There are some things we can do about it. There are some things we can't do about it, and more than anything, we'll have to live with it. So that's where the conversation goes about social media.
No, in fact, उसी पे मेरा, I'll not say सवाल था, rather what I myself have come across and what I myself have seen, and probably most of us seen, Facebook, Instagram has become one of the major source of pedophiles of the teenagers and so on and so forth. And then bunch of adult contents of the teenagers are available, and that of course अगर किसी भी बच्चे का अगर if they happen to see something likewise of their own, probably वो पूरी की पूरी life threaten कर देती है. And then the way the race has been happening with respect to deepfake and the AI and the metaverse, and then a lot of news which is going around where the girls are being virtually raped and then end up getting into the coma. So as you said it rightly, that boss इसको खत्म तो नहीं किया सकता, but
Yes.
but इस केस में बैलेंस भी तो नहीं किया जा सकता. I mean, this is very difficult to. अब suppose if me as an individual has been victimized of something else, probably उसको फिर क्या करेगा? I mean, how do you go about it? Somebody if happen to have something likewise.
There are a lot of professionals I also know of who have worked into this aspect: cyberbullying, cybersecurity, uh, bad experiences on social media. There are methods, there are ways to get help for individuals who have survived. Yes, there are resources, there are all of that. But however, the important question is then it comes to regulation in some or the other way. It's to a large extent the role of our governments, the role of our society at large to have stricter laws, stricter filters, stricter cybersecurity measures, so that these things can be at least reduced to a certain extent. Thoda bahut, if it's possible in that way. Yeah.
Okay. I'll change the topic rather. this is this is an endless conversation. But at the same time, with respect to the mental health, how do you see that things have evolved with respect to in Indian market or within Indian? Sorry, market would be the wrong word, but rather, how do you think that mental health as a conversation itself has been evolved over the last few years in India?
It's a good time to be a mental health professional in India currently.
अच्छा तो मतलब पैसे बन रहे हैं अभी अच्छे खासे.
It's a great time to be. It's a great time to be because there is a lot of awareness, a lot of technology to have sessions, to have workshops, to have virtual meetings. A lot of awareness that was missing earlier. Even, for example, before COVID, just before COVID also, everything used to be in person, offline. Accessibility was much less. Now the accessibility with online sessions, online platforms, workshops also can happen online now. It doesn't have to have a physical space. So it is a good time overall for all mental health professionals to be working currently. Another thing that's also now catching up is AI. So artificial intelligence is something that's catching up. A lot of organizations are working to make mental health
AI, you may say, yeah.
Or in that aspect.
Let's call it as a AI doctor, maybe, kind of, because I myself have come across a news जहाँ पे लोग actually ChatGPT से पूछ रहे हैं कि भाई मुझे ये problem है, give me the solution, and they are actually having the conversation with Siri and Alexa that how to get a okay, that was my actually the followed up question, but good that you have highlighted it. उस case में, I mean, there have had been instances, I guess काफी लोगों ने न्यूज पढ़ा होगा जहां पे खुद एलेक्सा उस इंडिविजुअल पेशेंट को, those who was going through the same suffering, उसको सजेस्ट करती है कि भाई तू सुसाइड कर ले, and that's the real time cases.
Yes.
So अब क्या?
So this is a good time to put I don't know the exact term, blockers basically in AI. There's a technical term where AI can't do beyond that. Even there's a set of codes that is written. It's a good time. What we couldn't do with social media boom, where we couldn't control it, we have the opportunity to control with the AI at least. That at least AI shouldn't become the next evil side of. Yeah, exactly. Therapist for sure. Hope not, but we'll discuss that a little bit also. Why it cannot even happen, but yeah, it's very important to put checks on AI. Yeah, in that aspect. AI also, I was specifically, it helps people to tell what's going on with them and then to get solutions to them. I think nowadays, after probably that case or something, if I'm not wrong, they've added these layers where AI tools will direct them to professionals. Like you can, for these concerns, if you do have these concerns, see a doctor or see a psychiatrist, see a psychologist, go for therapy, or take this sort of a solution for this. I think nowadays that from what I'm not sure if it's recent or a bit older, but that's what's happened. The modification that has happened in terms of that. So anyway, overall, in terms of where we are in the evolution of mental health services in India, it's pretty good. There always was a very large population of people seeking mental health help. There has always been that. There's not been a scarcity of it. It's just not visible because of the stigma and the taboo and all of that. Has always been, but now it's been a lot more because of the accessibility and the awareness. It obviously started, I think, from the corporates, where the mental health movement sort of started at mentally healthy employees give more money, so this is
More
a good,
productivity.
more productive, and then more money, so it is good for business in some or the other way, and in that sense, which is a good thing. Obviously, I'm not saying that people shouldn't have profit in that way, but it's a good initiative, and a lot of awareness has been created in that sense.
Yeah, but
So
at the
yeah,
same time as well, आपका mental health as in accessibility अभी देखो तो it has been restricted with a very, I shouldn't call them as a elite class, but it still is very restricted with the white collar professionals. I mean, there's a lot of hesitance. I mean, not only with the white collar professional, even in the any part of the section of the society, but the apart from the white collar professional, most of the people are still, if I'm not mistaken, they do not. Even
yes,
within the white collar professional, there are very few percentage of the people those who actually take it as a consulting, or maybe वो करना चाहते हैं, लेकिन वो बैक ऑफ माइंड में जो बुली हो गया या फिर किसी को बोलेंगे तो मजाक उड़ाएंगे या फिर गिल्ट की वजह से वो नहीं जाते. सो देयर इज अ लॉट, एज यू से, स्कोप इज तो खैर बहुत है, बट वही है, बैगेज भी,
yes.
सॉरी, बैगेज भी बहुत है.
बहुत ज्यादा है, एंड एब्सोल्युटली ट्रू. यही बात जो आप पहले भी बता रहे थे, इट्स वेरी ट्रू विद द स्टिग्मा एंड द जजमेंट ऑफ सोसाइटी एंड देन नॉट सीकिंग हेल्प बिकॉज ऑफ दैट. बट वी आर ऑल्सो in that phase where it is changing. So at the moment we are in that zone where there's a change happening.
Healthcare, sorry, mental healthcare professionals, you being as himself as a practitioner for a while by now, what are the major challenges that you face on a daily basis, especially for keeping the Indian consumer in your mind?
I think challenges are challenges of the profession itself, in terms of how to better help or do the work. That's part of the process. But I think AI, since we were also talking about that a little bit, that is a big challenge currently. I don't know if a lot of mental health professionals are aware of this, but a lot of organizations are working actively to create AI therapists, and that is
Okay.
something that can become a form of easy accessibility. The people that you were talking about are not visiting a psychologist for stigma purposes. Can be accessible to them, but the key thing here is that the current models of AI that we have, they cannot become therapists. Therapists are not just receivers and then givers of messages. Therapists also do a lot of human processing, a lot of human level processing that requires consciousness, that requires the therapist's own life and all of that. So that's one safety net that's there. AI is a good tool as a substitute to be used. That's one clarification, and that's a big challenge that a lot of mental health professionals are. Some of the mental health professionals are at least advocating for, that AI should be used as a substitute, as some kind of a journaling or some kind of support that AI can provide. But it cannot replace therapists based on the current models. I don't know how it's going to be when AI starts developing some form of an identity in itself. Maybe that's a future that probably is coming in some time. But at the moment, yeah, that's a challenge. So whoever was also listening to this video is AI is a support. AI is not a replacement for a human to human communication that happens in therapy. That's a very key difference that's there. Apart from that, some of the challenges are also the cost. So, like you also mentioned, elite, and it's very restricted to a particular level of society. There are the good news is that there are organizations, there are even therapists who have very flexible charges rates. Some of them even offer for free if they're tied up with an organization. They have certain slots which are free to access. So in that way, that's how they're tackling the challenges. But essentially, yes, therapy is expensive compared to how we look at how expenditure goes on for the daily common human being in India. That's one thing. But hopefully, uh, quality of life increases, standard of living increases, and then maybe some kind of a middle ground can come about that. Yeah.
So predominant challenge that आप जो बता रहे हो वो obviously the cost, because these therapists cost, I mean they cost decent money, that's for sure. As far as I know, is 1,500 is something that's what something they charge as a minimum per hour, and that's
Yes.
something is I'm saying minimum. And
Yes.
of course the AI comes a secondary part, because of course it's so as you said it rightly, AI will not replace your job, but the person who is actually using the AI will replace your job, as the statement goes. So
Yes.
AI can be there, but at the same time, as a part of the says being a part of the mental health and the professional, empathy plays a way vital role than anything else, because it is what it is. I mean, human to human touch को तो AI of course replace नहीं कर सकता, as you say it right. So majorly, if I look at that way, I think cost is a major concern, and the taboo that is there in the लोगों अच्छा सबसे बड़ी दूसरा ये भी है कि हमें एज एन इंडिविजुअल कई बार पता भी नहीं चलता है कि भाई वी रियली नीड अ थेरेपिस्ट, वी आर इन अ जोन कि भाई मुझे मेंटल हेल्थ प्रोफेशनल की जरूरत है, अंटिल कोई थर्ड पार्टी आके नहीं बताता कि भाई यू प्लीज गो एंड मीट समवन. वो भी एक बहुत बड़ा मेजर गैप है, बिकॉज आई एज एन इंडिविजुअल हैव फेस दिस वन एंड हैव सीन अ लॉट ऑफ पीपल दे इट्स नॉट ओनली द हेजिटेशन, अरे ठीक है ना भाई मेंटल हेल्थ है 2 दिन में खत्म हो जाएगा, बट इट जस्ट कीप ऑन पाइलिंग अप एंड अंटिल इट कम्स टू द पॉइंट वेयर इट जस्ट ब्लास्ट इट अप. अब वो फिर क्या होता है उस पर मैं नहीं टच करना चाहता, बट इट इज व्हाट इट इज.
Yeah, yeah. But I'd still like to add to that. There's also some encouragement in that, because now people are looking at therapy, starting to look at therapy also differently. Even though therapy by the word means treatment, मतलब you have some problem and there is a treatment, but therapy का जो purpose है, that's also changing in the Indian scenario. It's becoming more of a fitness tool, a mental fitness tool, rather than just कि मुझे ये डिसऑर्डर है तो इसके लिए मुझे ये प्रॉब्लम है तो मुझे इसके लिए ये ट्रीटमेंट चाहिए. So that is also changing. That's one of the things also in the way the landscape is also evolving. So a good analogy to that would be the gym, for instance. So how popular the gym culture is now compared to how it was, let's say, 20 years ago. And people are not going to the gym because they fractured their legs or something happened to their tendon or their muscle somewhere. They're going to the gym because they want to be fit. They want to feel healthy. In the same way, people's approach to therapy is also changing in that way. Once that mindset probably changes a little bit more, that yes, I can go for 1 hour a week to a professional who's trained, who's qualified, to share my life and whatever else is going on, to process the issues that are there. Maybe my blind spots, maybe improving certain aspects of my life, productivity and whatnot, or probably to process something that seems to be bothering me, I don't know about. Maybe if that change is happening, then it will be more accessible in that way. When therapy is looked at as for 1 hour, I'm going to go to this professional for processing of things. Yeah.
एक और क्वेश्चन है जॉर्ज. सो विद रेस्पेक्ट टू द मेंटल हेल्थ देयर आर लॉट ऑफ कंपनी दैट दोस आर ट्राइंग टू डेमोक्रेटाइज द एंटायर प्लेटफॉर्म इटसेल्फ. व्हाट आई मीन टू से कि ऐसी छोटी छोटी कंपनीज बहुत है, और आदर करते ये जो आईएम से आते हैं ना सारे के सारे मैजिक वंडर्स, तो उनको फंडिंग मिलती है एंड देन दे बिल्ड अ प्लेटफॉर्म जहाँ पे दे हायर सम ऑफ द पीपल दोज हु कैन लिसन आउट, सिर्फ सुन सके जो उनकी स्टोरी, एंड दे चार्ज ऑन certain basis, maybe half an hour के engagement के basis पे, maybe 1 minute के engagement के basis पे, maybe 1 hour के engagement के basis पे, जहाँ पे people are there, they can listen your stories and then they charge it. How credible these ideas are precisely?
I'm not very familiar with this, but we're talking about kind of
I'm talking about in general the way market is trying to monetize this mental health का जो awareness है, mental health का जो I'm not getting the word, but जो
हाँ,
sorry,
एक तरह का phenomenon it has become a big.
so it's like something shot out after, so they are trying to monetize as much as they can, and these IIMs graduate or though maybe the startup का जो arena है, they try to create a platform where they get a lot of people who can actually work as a counselor, and then they charge something amount और लोग उसको call करेंगे, सस्ते में निपट जाएगा. So
Yes,
suppose if somebody like you who is charging around 2000 per hour and have somebody like me who is available on the platform, because there is also a concept भाई psychology क्या है या फिर psychiatrist क्या है, maybe आप से आधा से ज्यादा काम तो सिर्फ सुनने वाला होता है, चुपचाप सुनते रहो, प्यार से करते रहो, 90% काम तो ऐसे ही हो गया.
So
is that what it is actually?
It depends on how they're marketing it. If they're marketing it as psychological help or counseling or mental health help in some way, then it is unethical.
Okay.
That's one thing. It is unethical if they're marketing it as that. If they're marketing, so I also know of a concept that happens, not sure exactly where, but human library concept where people can go and they can just talk to each other and get to know this person's story for an hour or something like that. Like there are concepts like that. We come up with very creative ideas, right, as human beings, also to have conversations through media, films, and all of that. If it's marketed as that okay, this is like a 1 hour engagement where you can just speak whatever you want to, it's fine. There are also chats that happen where there are active listeners who just listen to the person without claiming to be professionals or claiming to be psychologists or counselors or claiming to be mental health professionals in any form. Any kind of mental health treatment or help in that capacity is legalized. You cannot just do that if you don't have the qualifications.
Okay.
So it can be ethical, unethical based on what their marketing is, what they're promoting, and how are they selling it. Basically, that's important.
Okay. And you also works with a lot of LGBTQ clients. How do you see that the way society treats them will actually impact their overall mental health? I know there are a lot of stories, I know there are a lot of contents available in and around, but in reality, क्या ये सही में it actually make their life hell? Or how is that altogether?
So, well, it's subjective. It differs from individuals, but as a community, LGBT community is by definition labeled by society. LGBT hai because they have different sexual and gender identity. It's labeled by society. It's naturally, there's no doubt about it that it is a very natural process, biological process, but it's labeled. So in essence, whatever society then, so once you label something, then you also have judgments about it, right? Once you label something, then there are going to be judgments about it. That is basically how the mental health of LGBT plus individuals is being impacted. There are a lot of judgments, there are a lot of code of conduct, essentially, how they should be. If they are, we don't accept, but if we accept, how they should be. We don't accept, and this is not what they should be like. So there's a very strict sort of social environment where how they should be, how they should live, whom they should be meeting, how they should be surviving in society, what role should they be having, should they be included or excluded. All of these are unsaid rules that come around this community, just like any other marginalized community for that matter. It's not just specific to LGBT community, but since this is a bit more of a personal, gender and sexuality is a lot personal to the individual, this topic, and hence there's more stigma attached to it. if we remove this aspect, let's say if we remove the influence of social attitudes of society from this, then मतलब these are individuals who are coming with सबके जैसे जो प्रॉब्लम्स होते हैं बिल्कुल उसी प्रॉब्लम से आ रहे हैं, रिलेशनशिप्स की
Okay.
प्रॉब्लम, वर्क प्लेस की प्रॉब्लम्स है, एडजस्टमेंट की प्रॉब्लम्स है, ब्रेकअप की प्रॉब्लम है, मैरिज का इशू है, पेरेंटिंग का इशू है, पास्ट का इशू है, जस्ट लाइक एनी अदर इंडिविजुअल हु वुड कम सीक फॉर हेल्प इन एनी फॉर्म. So society does play a huge role. Obviously, because of the social media aspect, also there is a lot of more and more split that is happening between people who are extremely supportive and people who are extremely against. So it's becoming more and more wider in society, and that's again then playing up with the identity of the individual. That okay, where to just
Fit in.
where all of this that is going on. So yeah, it's unfortunate, but then once again, as it's complicated, society is bigger than the individual, and we are always in the gray area about it. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So you yourself, जब आप as a mental health professional you are working, एक myth जो कि you really want to debunk for once at all, एक ऐसा myth जो आप as a mental health को लेके debunk करना चाहते हो, जिसको हमेशा के लिए खत्म करना चाहते हो. ये पागलपंती नहीं है. मेरे लिए तो ये है कि भाई मेंटल हेल्थ प्रोफेशनल के पास जाना पागलपंती नहीं.
That is obviously one major one that needs to be debunked.
वो तो मेरा था, आपका ऐसे क्या है?
So I think the first thing that comes to my mind is that introversion, yeah, introverts are in somewhere inferior, or it's a bad thing to be. That is the one of the biggest challenges also that comes up in work in our practices. That that person is an introvert, or I am an introvert and I need to be an extrovert. And so essentially this is a very big myth. Introversion and extroversion are just dimensions of a trait of personality. Some people are more on that side, some people are more on this side. It's a natural way, biological way of being in the world, and to a large extent it cannot be changed, unless obviously through therapy and all of that, but it cannot just be it can be
खत्म नहीं
changed.
किया जा सकता ऐसा है.
It can be changed, but it need not be.
Okay.
It need not be pathological. मतलब it's not something that's to be rid of, to be gotten rid of. Introversion. Introversion is the biological makeup of the nervous system. That's essentially what it is. Extroversion is the biological makeup of the, जिस तरह से आपका nervous system designed है, it brings your behavior out as extroverted.
I may slightly disagree, but at the same time, it also makes sense, as you said it, that ये biological behavior, but if somebody is willing to do it, they can of course change it. So अगर कोई
Yes.
introvert है, तो वो extrovert बन सकता है, provided there is a will.
So it's biological, but also it is influenced a lot by the experiences of the environment, how they work, and like how their nervous systems are biologically, how the genetics have been, and then what the experiences have been. If they've gotten enough opportunities for socializing, how they've tackled that. If they've not gotten it. Now the thing is, I understand where you're coming from. There's a confusion between introversion and social anxiety. There's a
Very
mix up.
possible. Very possible.
It's fused in some way. Being shy and introvert and all of that is different from social anxiety. Social anxiety can happen to an extroverted person as well. Social anxiety is anxiety about performance or anxiety about how you perceive yourself socially. So it's more
Okay.
of an anxiety problem or an issue. It's just because someone is anxious socially does not mean that they are introverted.
Then
It's-
how do you distinguish then in that case introvert?
So let's start with that. So introverts are actually individuals who turn inwards to recharge themselves.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
As themselves, they take their time and they have a stronger sense of boundary or space where they feel more independent and more alive. Extroverts reach out to recharge their batteries in some way. They reach out for towards other people to feel a sense of independence and identity. You get
Okay.
my point?
Okay.
It's where the person functions optimally. That is essentially what it is. उसके आसपास के जो भी चीजें आई है, that's basically part of the stigma. Social anxiety,
अच्छा.
individual, and hence introversion is bad, and hence introverts need to change. So that's part of the mix that has happened. But essentially, a lot of people are introverted. A
True.
lot of the changes also that have happened in the world have been through introverted people. That too. Not saying that be introverted because extrovert people are not changing the world, because they have. It's just to create that balance. Nobody is also, most of the time it's not that they are very extreme. Extreme forms are जनरली पैथोलॉजिकल, जनरली स्पीकिंग, मतलब कि कुछ ना कुछ प्रॉब्लम्स होगा अगर एक्सट्रीम फॉर्म्स है तो. लेट्स से फॉर एग्जांपल 10 out of 10 introverted or 10 out of 10 extroverted creates problems for themselves and other people. You can also imagine how that would do that, how that would create problems. Most of the people are somewhere in the middle of it.
Oh,
And they also
okay.
sway. Personality traits are flexible to a range. They can also sway a little bit that
Okay.
way.
So related to the same, मैंने भी एक phrase कहीं सुना था कि introvert are not introvert, they are extrovert to very selective people.
Depending on the situation, introverts do socialize. They have friends. They go to parties. They do all of those things depending on the level of their introversion. It's just that they would, to discover themselves, to feel recharged, they would turn inwards to themselves. Extroverts would keep turning to other people, refreshed and recharged in that way.
Okay,
That's,
Josh. So,
but yeah.
yeah. So my last question is, how do I identify the right health professional? बड़ा मुश्किल सवाल है. I'll not say मुश्किल सवाल है, but me as a consumer एक बड़ा major back of mind में रहता है कि भाई, how to identify the right health professional, right mental health professional? Because ये एक तो बहुत subjective है. सबसे बड़ी बात, मेरा आपके साथ शायद से बन गया, probably some with other individual it may not work out with me. So जैसे डॉक्टर्स के साथ होता है, डॉक्टर्स के साथ I know probably the emotional part also comes, but medicine and some experiences also makes a difference. But how to identify the right mental health professional, especially when I am someone, again I'm keeping as a word as a introvert हूँ, या फिर somebody who is do not want to share my mental stigma with anybody, and मैं कुछ ढूंढ रहा हूँ and I'm not able to figure it out कि मैं approach किसको करूँ. उस केस में how to identify the right individual, I mean right professional.
So first of all, there are some general things. Some general things are that the person should be a mental health professional. So for that, you'll have to ask for their qualifications. If they're psychiatrists, they should have an MD in psychiatry. If they're clinical psychologists, MPhil with a license. If they're counseling psychologists, just a master's. So that's essential. Second thing is obviously how much of an experience do they have. Third is, do they have experience with clients who seem to have similar difficulties as themselves. So for example, if someone has difficulty socializing or social anxiety, do they have experience working with clients who have social anxiety? So something of that sort. The other thing is, are they, now this is a bit more niche to the profession itself, but you also need to ask them, are they getting supervised for their practice? So the work that they're doing with you, are they also getting mentorship or guidance or supervision from someone else? That's very important that they are, because then it creates a level of help, a multiple level of help. You will get the best help that you can get. That's one thing. That's the practical aspects of it. The other aspect of it is obviously the I generally take or inform in my practice to have at least 2 to 3 sessions where a sense of connection is formed, or a sense of a fit, and it's a fit that cannot be defined per se. Maybe can be defined, but not for everyone. It's more of a felt sense, मतलब एक feeling sense होता है कि okay, I'm able to speak with this person, I'm able to communicate with this person, and it seems like this person is able to understand me. It's a very body-based, felt sense कि I feel safe with this person and in sharing what I have to. If you don't feel that with anyone in general, then obviously that's a different discussion. But with professionals in particular, try it out. that I'm going to have 3 sessions, I'm going to have 4 sessions, just to check if we're a fit or not. And then maybe if we're not a fit, then please can you help me go to another therapist. And professionals in the field know this. Not every client is a fit with the therapist. A lot of the times also it happens that they're not a fit. And the work is going on. Maybe later on they develop some kind of a fit or fitness, but otherwise it's for the client to see physically that am I feeling comfortable, am I feeling connected with this person or not. Yeah,
It's very subjective, by the way. It's very,
very
very subjective.
a very felt sense in that aspect. Yeah.
So at the same time, मुझे कैसे पता चलेगा भाई? I guess मैंने पॉइंट को टच किया, बट आई वांटेड टू रादर हियर इट फ्रॉम यू कि भाई हाउ टू आइडेंटिफाई कि मैं सफर कर रहा हूँ. आई नो देयर आर सिम्टम्स कि भाई आपको शिवर होने लगता है, आपको बहुत घबराहट होती है, एंड देयर आर लॉट ऑफ लिस्टेड सिम्टम्स आते हैं जैसे खांसी, जुकाम एंड सो फोर्थ है. बट विद रिस्पेक्ट टू द मेंटल एंजाइटी, और आई एम इन द स्टेट वेयर आई एक्चुअली नीड टू नाउ लुक फॉर द mental health professional. In that case, what are the symptoms that
Okay. Once
I
again,
should be knowing rather?
right. Once again, very subjective because
Okay.
everyone has very different capacity to tolerate things.
Okay.
At a point, it will come that there's some difficulty in tolerating anxiety, for example. So at that point, that's one indication. Okay, fine, probably professional help. But it's not an individual role itself. Kabhi, like you also yourself also mentioned, that other people tell that
Okay.
hey, it's like you're going through a rough patch. Do you need professional help? So it can also be through other people that's happening. Then obviously the other discussions about how much aware you are about कि ये जो चीजें हो रही है मुझे, ये जो tingling sensation हो रहा है, जो shivering हो रही है, जो leg shaking जो हो रहा है, वो actually probably is a anxiety symptom or whatever it may be. So that also then comes part of the awareness that happens. But there's no one set of like
one set for
or like
all individual.
all individuals. No, there isn't. Yeah, very very.
Perfect, Josh. Thank you so much for those insights, because especially the part of the social media and the parenting part, though it's very personal to me, but I'll not get into that. But it's actually personal to the 90% of India, those who are born before 80s or the 90s, and even now as well. Though social media, I guess, का मतलब ये नहीं कि चीजें change हो गई है, because parenting, as I said, is an art, and like anything else, this has to be learned as we go in the process as well, and so goes for everything else. So thank you so much for those highlights, and this actually makes a lot of sense, and especially talking to someone from the horse's mouth.
I really had a great time having this conversation with you, Kamlesh. Thank you for having me, and hopefully I'll see you around.